Hi, I'm Kevin Fontana, and in this edition of Dirt Cheap Guitar, we're going to take a look at the Squier Telecaster. So if you're thinking about getting an electric guitar, or maybe you've always wanted a Telecaster and don't want to put a lot of money into it, in this edition of Dirt Cheap Guitar, we're going to take a look at the Squier Telecaster, and I'm going to tell you the pros, the cons, and my experiences using it. So you probably saw a video where I just did some first thoughts on this when this guitar came in about 6 months ago, and I'll put a link above so that you can take a look at my first thoughts. I've waited to do this video because I wanted to take some time and play around with the guitar a little bit and kind of give you more of a long-term using it for a few months view of what I like about the guitar and some of the things that I don't like. Now, let me preface this by saying that it is a really good value for the money. This guitar was less than $200 new. This particular one is a custom finish that's only offered through Guitar Center. Now, the Guitar Center is not sponsoring this. I paid for this out of my own pocket. But I really kind of dug this sparkle finish that it came in. And this was only issued through Guitar Center. So if you want this exact guitar, that's where you'll have to get it. Now, it's very similar to some of the other ones. I'll tell you some of the differences other than just the color. This particular model is kind of in their Bullet series, but when you step up from this one in the Squier line, some of the changes that you'll see is the body is actually either alder or ash. This body is basswood. It's a very lightweight wood, but because we've got this paint finish over it, it's going to do okay. It tends to be a softer wood. It tends to be lighter, which is kind of nice at the end of the night if you're playing some bar gig somewhere. Overall, it doesn't seem to really affect the sound quality, at least in my ears. Now, what you're going to be hearing when I'm playing this is I'm running this guitar through my Boss Katana. I have one of the original series of the Katana 1. So I'm using the Boss Tone Studio to adjust the amp while I'm filming this because you really need to hear some of the different tones that you can get out of this. This is mostly known for country. So a little bit of history. When Leo Fender first made his first electric guitar, it was this style guitar, the Tele style. But at the time, it was called an Esquire. And the difference is it only had one pickup in it. It didn't have separate pickups. When he came out with the Telecaster, the very first ones had two pickups, but the pickup selector was actually different. This one selects either this pickup, both of them, or just the one. It's a three-way selector. The early ones actually used more tone controls and stuff so that when you switched, you weren't necessarily switching from one pickup to the next. And there's tons of videos where they take a look at some of the early ones. But after some refinements and some additions, he came out with this one called the Telecaster. This is extremely popular in country music, but that's not the only place that it's used. There are punk bands that use them, metal bands that use them. If you've ever seen Slipknot and their lead guitar player, Jim Root, he uses his own custom model Telecaster that just uses different pickups. But it's so widely used because you can get a lot of different tones out of it. So let's start off with the basic clean sound. Here I'm using the bridge pickup. And you can hear it's got a really kind of bright, clean sound. Now, this is a hardtail. It does not have a vibrato on it, which makes it really good for country styles, especially different types of unison bends and what they call chicken picking. If you check some of my other videos, you'll see that the Stratocasters and guitars with vibrato on it, when you bend the string, it can actually detune the other strings because you're actually bending the bridge. This guitar does not do that. No matter how much I bend, the other strings stay in tune, and that's really good for playing that style of guitar. And there's actually modifications that you can get to this, such as the B bender and the G bender, which allow you to bend the open strings to get different styles of bends and things that you're playing. So I'm not the greatest country picker. I can play a few things, but there are guys that can really make these guitars sing and do all kinds of really cool country riffs and tricks using some of the different bends and pull-offs and double stops. A few other things. If you've ever heard Purple Haze by Jimi Hendrix, there was an interview that came out recently where it was kind of told that for the guitar solo for that song, Jimi Hendrix actually used a Telecaster. There are some early Led Zeppelin tunes where Jimmy Page is actually using a Telecaster. As a matter of fact, they've reissued a custom shop model that has one of the paint schemes that Jimmy Page used early on in Led Zeppelin, some of their live shows. So it's really a versatile guitar. Now, this one in particular, some of the differences, I've talked about this before with the budget guitars where they kind of save money. This one is made in Indonesia, more than likely subcontracted through the Court company, but licensed by Fender. It has this would typically be a rosewood. I'm not exactly sure what type of wood they're using for the fretboard, but it's close enough that it feels pretty good. Where they save money is in the hardware. So just like in some of the other videos I've done with dirt cheap guitars, these tuners, if I was going to make any changes to this guitar, this is the first thing that I would change, because there is a little bit of play, not as much as in others. One of the first dirt cheap guitars I did was a Squier Bullet Telecaster, and it actually has more play than this one does. This one's not too bad, but that's one of the things I would change. To make it a little bit easier to tune. So, if you check out my other videos about tuning, with these, it's best to kind of tune from underneath the note and tune up to it so that you got it'll stay in pitch better. Also, it helps to use some kind of lubricant across the nut. There's several brands out there, but just a little drop or maybe some graphite paste will help with tuning stabilities. Now, other things that where money was saved was in the pickups, but they actually sound pretty good. That might be something that you want to upgrade. Again, with this guitar, it's decent the way it is. It's good as a backup guitar. It's good for beginning guitarists. If you have a gig and you need to be able to pull off some tele sounds, but you don't necessarily want to go out and throw a bunch of money at some of the other ones, this is a good alternative. A few other things to notice. The switch here has a little bit of static in it. And that's going to be an easy fix. It probably just needs some contact cleaner in there and work it back and forth. So when I switch, I kind of know that I have to wiggle it a little bit. It hasn't been too much of an issue. I think I've used this live one time maybe. But it's something I definitely need to have looked at. Worst case scenario is I replace the switch with a better one, and if you're handy with a soldering iron, it's not a difficult fix. It's not necessarily a game changer to make it a do not buy kind of thing, because it's an easy fix if need be. And when you try it out in the store, if there's a problem, they'll fix it for you beforehand. So that's something that you might want to double check and make sure that everything's working properly when you buy these. This one, you know, with the pandemic going on, I actually ordered this online, so I didn't really have a chance to kind of try it out beforehand, but I've played enough of these series of guitars, I kind of knew what I was getting into. The overall playability, I haven't done any kind of changes to this except change the strings on it since I've had it. I haven't done any real setup work or anything, and it came pretty well. I probably will make a few changes to it just to kind of improve the action just a little bit. But again, when you buy it in the store, you can have them do that before you take it home. Now, a few other things that I've noticed in this 6 months that I've had it. You know, sometimes I do a lot of fretboard stuff where I might be tapping, or I might be doing picking where I'm doing hybrid picking and I'm using, say, the pick and some of my fingers to do some of these bends. I have noticed that if I pick up on the neck, which I do sometimes if I'm doing some kind of hammer-on like that, I've noticed that my nails will actually get caught on the fret ends. The frets aren't bad. They've actually, the edges are smooth and everything. It's just a few frets in here that maybe have seemed to lift just a hair. Again, it's not a game changer. It's just one of those things that if I were going to use this all the time, I would kind of file it, tap it, make sure that the frets aren't coming up or anything like that. Now, for the sounds, the neck pickup really, you know, sounds pretty good on this guitar. And I can roll the tone off. And all I'm doing is I'm using miking the cabinet, running straight into the interface. I'm not doing any kind of post-processing other than just a little bit of compression on the video as a whole to make it sound better on YouTube. So you're hearing pretty much what I'm hearing in the room. I've even got a room mic set up just to kind of capture some of the ambience. So you know, so far I've just been using some plain tones because I want you to have an idea of what the guitar really sounds like. You know, you add enough effects and sometimes it's hard to tell. If you add enough effects, sometimes it's hard to tell what's really going on with the guitar. And one thing I've noticed is I have to stop playing while I'm talking because even though I'm using a lav mic, it picks up the room. So in some of the previous videos, you may have seen me talking and then playing, and sometimes it's kind of hard to hear. So I have to kind of consciously think about that when I'm doing these videos so that you can hear what I'm talking about and not have me noodling over top of it. So all the static that you heard when I was messing with the switch, that's only when I've been switching it. That's how I know it's a little contact issue that's got to be adjusted or put some cleaner in there. Now, again, with the country sounds, that's where this guitar really shines. But you might ask, well, can you do other styles with it? And you can. You can do hard rock, you can do classic rock, you can even do metal. So here's the guitar. Now I'm using the brown sound out of the Boss Katana, and you can get some pretty gnarly sounds out of the guitar. So, and you might say, well, does it chug? Well, yeah. Now, they make other variants of this in the Squier series that are a little bit more expensive, but if you were looking at doing you know, a lot of hard rock and stuff, you may want to opt for one that has the humbucker in this position instead of the single coil. Single coils will only get so gnarly just because of the lower output. But you know, you can add fuzz, you can add all kinds of effects, and you can get it as nasty as you want it to get. So the Squier series Telecaster. Again, it's a pretty good value. I think I paid $179 was the list on this, or maybe it was $189. Somewhere in the $200 and a little lower range. Again, I paid a little bit extra just to get the sparkle red finish because it's cool. But overall, you know, I've been fairly pleased with it given the price. So if I was going to put a little bit more money into this, I would probably get maybe a used Fender Baja series. Some of the new Squiers that are coming out in the $400 to $500 range are really good, and they basically, you know, they're still made overseas, but they have upgraded hardware. The woods are a little bit better, some different finishes, the more classic finishes. Or get one of the Fender Mexican made guitars. Those are pretty well done also. And then they go right on up to the Ultra, which is a really cool one. And if that was going to be your main instrument and you were a professional musician, that might be something you can get. But they're going to be in the $1,500 to $1,800 range, new and used, or used and new. But overall, this is a pretty good guitar in general. There are other manufacturers out there that make this T style as well, but none for the price point that this one does that's going to be as good as this. So I've given you some of the things I like about it, some of the things I don't like about it. None of the things that I don't like about it are game changers. I still would get this guitar even though it's got a few things that I'm not crazy about. But if you're handy, or you know somebody that works on guitars, or even your guitar shop can make adjustments and do changes to it if need be, and you still have a decent guitar without sinking a lot of money into it. So it's good as a backup guitar. It's good as, if you need a telly for certain things, but not all the time. And it's a good beginner guitar as well. The neck has a good profile to it. It's got a satin finish on the back. So if you're playing festival gigs, and I'll talk about that in one of my Weekend Warrior series videos, when you're playing outside, there are a lot of things that just are not fun about doing festival gigs. But this guitar probably will hold up a little bit better out of doors with sweat and heat and everything like that. So if you like this video, be sure and give it a thumbs up, and also don't forget to subscribe and click the bell icon so you'll be notified. If you've already subscribed to this channel, thank you, and I appreciate your support. I'm going to try to get up to where I'm doing 2 a week. So far that's been a little bit difficult, but I'm getting better at the whole video making thing so that I can churn these out faster. And if you have any comments or suggestions, any ideas that you'd like to see, any topics you want me to cover, just put a comment down below. I've got a few in the works that are from viewer comments. And I'll be posting those up here soon, hopefully. And until next time, remember, keep practicing.